to the third edition of Torino TedEd, of our event. We are very happy to have you with us. Tonight is very special because we have today's speakers, this current edition speakers, our previous speakers, and our volunteers, you, our wonderful audience, and for the very first time, we are online. So we have people watching us from all over the world. Now, I'd like to do, and we are very excited about this, it's a first. This is what I would like to do. I'm gonna count to 3, and I would like for you guys to say ciao very loudly. Let's give them a warm welcome. 1, 2, 3. Ciao! Thank you, great, okay. So, you all are probably wondering why we chose to have this event entirely in the English language. It's because we want to share our ideas with as many people as possible. This is the mission of TED, to share ideas and to connect people. We have worked very hard. It's been fun, but we have worked really, really hard for this event that's getting ready to start. And this is what we would like. We would like for all of you to go home, think about the event, and maybe look back on the event, and maybe, why not, we will have been able to ignite a light within you, and you might want to explore deeper explore the topics that we are going to present to you tonight. So, now, as Chris Anderson would say, let's go on with the show. Enjoy.
There are a few things that we can do to start the change. For example, why drive when we can bike?
If we listen to each other, we will not only be stronger, but also more connected to the people and the world around us.
Use your creativity. Find, invent, learn. Take the lead.
It was stupid.
Every voice matters. Thank you. This is us. This is Torino TedEd. It's been 3 years since I first said it. I was one of the 13 Torino TedEd pioneers. Yes, that's what we like to call ourselves. We are the ones who took part in the first edition of this TED event, and I was also a participant last year. I could consider myself a TEDEd veteran. This is why this year I chose to help in the process of preparing today's speakers rather than giving another TED Talk myself. Why did I call it a process, you may ask? I want to share a secret with you. TEDed Talks don't grow on trees. They follow a rigorous scheme which involves Lots and lots of brainstorming that eventually leads to ideas which we think are worth sharing, creative writing, which in my opinion it's the hardest part of all, even because it is in a foreign language, English, and last but not least, public speaking. Yeah, I know, it's shocking. There are so many parts in the making of a TED Talk. This is why what you will see today is the result of approximately 60 hours of meetings that started in October of last year. We gather every Friday at our Torino TedEd headquarters for 2 hours. These meetups are probably the part that I cherish the most about my TEDED experience. They have always been a place where I felt free and safe to express my thoughts, an environment in which I knew I could say what I think and share my passions, get heartfelt feedback every time I needed it. This year, it was my turn to give feedback. It gave me the opportunity to see the talks that you will hear today grow, take shape, and finally step out into the world. I must admit, it was quite strange to see that the struggles that I had while preparing my speeches for the last events were similar, yet totally different from the ones that today's speakers had. Diversity is what makes all of this so special. Special. This is an adjective I will give to my TEDED experience. This project has seen me grow. I was 14 when I first started, and this year I will turn 18. I was in my second year of high school, had some ideas, and I wanted to share them. So I joined this TEDED club. Next thing I knew, I was jotting down on a piece of paper my thoughts, and before I even knew it, I was on stage, telling my story twice. It's so beautiful if you think about it. So now, please join me in a big round of applause for today's speakers, and let's get this celebration started. Thank you.
Magic is everywhere, not just in tricks. Giacomo is a magician, and today he's gonna share with you his passion. Let's welcome Giacomo.
When you hear the word magic, what do you think of? Harry Potter? Maybe some of you think of dynamo, or maybe weird and random things that fly, like a normal book or random glass. Magic is an ancient art. The earliest reported magic trick goes back to 2500 BC in ancient Egypt. Its name is the shell game, and this is what it looked like. In Middle Ages, magicians were thieves, and they used their tricks to rob people. Now, magicians as we know them are entertainers, and they use magic just to make people feel like everything is possible. I personally discovered magic one summer. Every summer, me and my family go to the sea, in a tiny village where we know most of the people there, which makes it cool. Every day, we go to a beach called Cala Sassari, where we have a lot of fun. We swim, we play beach volley, and when it's too hot, we sit in the shadow of the beach bar and we talk or play card games. A certain day, one of my friends took out his playing cards and started doing amazing tricks to entertain us. He made me pick any card that I wanted. Then he made me shuffle the deck. At the end, I don't know how, he knew the card that I picked. Plus, when he snapped his finger, my card was on the top of the deck that I shuffled 1 second before. This really impressed me. Later at night, when I was in my bed, I couldn't stop thinking of that red card that jumped on the top of the deck when 1 second before was in the middle of it. I promised myself that one day I would have been able to astound people like he did with me. When I came back to Turin after my summer vacation, I remembered that the first thing I did as soon as I got in my house was searching on the web a brand new deck of cards to start practicing. From that day on, I started practicing. Before, from YouTube videos, and then by following my first magic book, which I've secretly kept in my wardrobe through the years. After a few months, I had my first chance to show everyone what I learned. I was so excited. I remember I couldn't sleep the day before. My audience was made of a group of 10 rambunctious 6- and 7-year-olds. Some of them were very interested in my performance. Others just wanted to know the secret behind each trick I did. They would say, "That's easy," or "I know how you did it," and they would just try to find out the trick, like it was all they came for. This really bothered me in a way. However, it also made me want to know more about why do we want to discover the secret behind everything so eagerly? Truth is that we're simply far more likely to accept something new if we understand the reason for it, even if it fails to benefit us or even if it causes us harm in some way. Magic is something you either love or just don't like. And when you don't, you feel fooled and you want to show everyone that you know the sacred trick. It appeals to people all over the world because it offers an escape from reality. But what many people don't know is that magic is used in even more serious things than just one simple card trick. Magic tricks are used to teach maths in actual school classrooms. This is done by the project Teach by Magic. Illusions are also used in healthcare. The project Healing Magic helps people with temporary and permanent moving disabilities by teaching them tricks studied on purpose to use the part of the body that has some sort of problem, so it can recover faster. It helps them socialize, and it has a really big impact on the self-esteem of the person. Magic has the power to connect people. And I'm not telling you this because I read on a book or something, but because it happens to me every Wednesday when me and some of my magician friends meet to share ideas and thoughts on what we learned in the past week. During those 2 simple hours, we don't simply have fun, but we collaborate to improve our skills, such as gross motor skills, because to learn the art of magic, one should have a high level of coordination and control skills. 2, we build our interpersonal skills, and we build our self-discipline, because to learn to become a performer, you have to train a lot, and it takes hard work and discipline. Plus, you have to practice and practice and practice every day. But why? Why do I practice so much? It's because I believe in magic, and I think it is capable of making people dream. 'Cause, as Roald Dahl once said, those who don't believe in magic will never find it. Thank you.
Giulio is a very friendly and charismatic guy who had the honor to share the stage during the last edition. He's really passionate about video making, and thanks to that, he met a strong woman, Ivana. Today, he's going to tell you her fascinating story about a migration into a different culture. Are you curious? I will let him tell you the rest. Thank you.
This is Ivana. Ivana is my sister dance instructor. Well, I'm an amateur theater technician, and as such, I've always helped Ivana and her dance group with their shows. Helping Ivana was for me almost like a job. And like many jobs, I only care about what I produce, and not so much about who I produce it with. That is, until I was employed to take part in a new project, a show about Ivana's life. In 1993, Ivana and her family were forced to leave their homeland, Serbia, in search of a new country where to live. Her mother, Jasminka, was a Bosnian Muslim, and her father, Zeljko, a Serbian Orthodox. They lived in Serbia for years, until something started. The 1991 Yugoslav War. Because of their mixed origins, neither of the two states accepted them fully. Serbia didn't accept the Orthodox, and Bosnia didn't accept the Orthodox. So one day, Jasminka decided that she had had enough. They were going to leave Yugoslavia, and forever. They made a plan. The day after, Zeljko would desert the People's Army, leaving Ivana's mother alone, and would run to the border. Meanwhile, Jasminka, Ivana's mother, will negotiate with a human trafficker to make them reach Germany. But reaching Germany was not an easy journey. All the states part of the Yugoslav Union had closed their borders and weren't intention to let people move between states. They had to make a couple of different passports depending on the state they were crossing, denying their real origin. But fortunately, after 2 weeks, they could finally arrive in Germany, where they were granted political asylum. They lived in Germany for 1 year in an emergency house, until they received a very special call. Their grandparents had passed the border and had arrived safely in Italy, here in Turin. Once again, Ivana's family jumped in a car and drove for miles and miles to finally reach Italy, their future homeland. When they arrived at the refugee center here in Turin, they were asked a series of questions, among which, what ethnic group do you belong to? And their answer was Romani. I'm wondering what this word is evoking in you. From the beginning of this talk, you thought Ivana was simply a refugee. And now I'm telling you she's part of Europe's most hated group of people, Romani. We all think of Romani as nomads, as thieves, as everyday criminals, and we all think they live in campers because, you know, that is their culture to nomad. But actually, Romani are not nomad anymore. They've been forced to do so. During the year, they fled the all non-welcoming countries in which they tried to settle in. But despite this, Ivana's family was forced to live in a Roma camp, because that is the standard allocation for Romani refugees in Italy. The Italian government has decided to organize Romani with the current system of Roma camps. Italy has been alerted several times by European Court of Justice about poor housing conditions and few employment opportunities for Roma people. This is a photo of Ivana in a Roma camp here in Turin. Amnesty International has reported how Roma camps are not adequate solutions. They are often located in remote places where there are no services available, and housing is never adequate if it cuts off employment opportunities, healthcare services, and other social facilities. Because people who feel left out from the state are the most inclined to committing crimes. But what we have to know is that there is a large group of Roma students and workers who actually live in normal houses. In Italy, there is a population of 150,000 Romani, with just 20,000 Romani living in camps. This means that only the 13% of Romani people here in Italy living in campers and in camps. These people live near us, like us, in normal houses. They can be your butcher. They can be your baker. They can be your some professors. Did you know that Elvis Presley was Romani, together with Banderas, Ibrahimovic, the Gypsy Kings, and others? These people live near us, but we don't see them. Ivana's family had one more step to go. They needed to integrate. But in order to do so, it was impossible to continue living in the Roma camp. But for Romani people in Italy, it's often very difficult to rent apartments or get jobs. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to give a house or give a job to a nomad living in a camp. So there was just one way: denying their real origins. And so they did. They went and they reapplied for an emergency house without sharing their ethnic identity. Unfortunately, they were eligible for an emergency house. And they could finally restart a new life in a new state with a new house. As a result of having a house, Zelieko and Jasminka could finally restart a life. Now, they both work in a restaurant here in Turin. Ivana is studying education. And she has also founded TedEd, a dance group that promotes Romani tradition and whose goal is to connect Romani people with our culture without having them to deny to their real origins. We all know that Roma people really cares about their tradition, which, as a matter of fact, are very different from ours. Their way of living usually annoys us because it reminds us that we can always lose everything and become just as them, poor. However, this shouldn't be a reason to discriminate them. Because if we really want to integrate them and provide them with good housing, we have only one solution. Give them a house. Give them an employment opportunity. And we should finally let them express their culture and their origins. Thank you.
How many of you have bought books at your local bookshop this year? Domitilla loves books, and she will share with us the importance of supporting our local shops.
Most of us are creatures of habit. Despite the increasing offers of holidays and adventures, a lot of us prefer to go to the same destination year on year. But why do we do so? Are we just too lazy to make new decisions about our next trip? In a way, it is about familiar and friendly faces, because each time we go back there, it feels like going back home. As Italians, for example, when talking about our summer holidays, we'll often ask each other, mare o montagna? Meaning, are you going to the beach in August or to the mountains? We love going to the same places. Which brings me back to my repeat destination. a small town in Valle d'Aosta Valley in the Italian Alps, Champoluc. I have been going there since I was 5. My parents have always gone there, and even my grandparents used to go there. There is a special bread shop I go to every morning, a special walk I take with my dog near the waterfall, but most importantly of all, Livre Musique, a tiny wooden library in Route Varasque 8 that has been around for more than 40 years. This is my special place. I still remember the first time I entered here. I was 5 and my mother wanted to buy me a book. Frankly, I would have definitely preferred buying a doll or even candy, but my mother forced me, and now I'm infinitely grateful to her about it. As I pushed the thick and heavy door of the bookstore, an unmistakable smell of books swept me away. I still remember the grins that the wooden floors made as I stepped for the first time, and each time I hear that sound, even in other places, it makes me think of Livre Musique. We were warmly welcomed by Daniela upon our arrival, who has owned the bookstore for 22 years now. After asking me 2 questions, she immediately gave me a book and said that I would have loved it. I wasn't really sure about it, but as I came home and started reading it, I realized that she was right. I really loved it. And so, in time, Livre Musique has become a place I go to each time I have a chance, because it is a fun and welcoming place. Daniela hand-selects her books. However, it is not the only thing she does. She hosts authors for them to talk about their books, and she even participates to a festival named the Call of the Forest, which is a literary and musical gathering in the woods. She does everything she can to stay open. You see, despite the many efforts made by small libraries to capture buyers' attentions, many of them have been forced out of business. Daniela in Champoluc is among the lucky ones who hasn't been forced to close due to the lack of buyers and fierce competition in the publishing industry. E-commerce is the main threat of these places. Between 2010 and 2015, 288 bookstores have closed in Italy, just under 60 a year. Italian bookstores are having a hard time. Just take a ride in some cities of the peninsula, Naples, Venice, or even Florence. Many historical and independent bookstores are closing little by little, leaving room to e-commerce and large industrial chains, because they can afford to make huge discounts that small libraries don't have the means to do. In the 2012 Italian crisis, in which many bookstores have closed, not only physical places have disappeared, but important and precious pieces of our cities, of our communities have disappeared. You may ask yourself, how can a bookstore act as a community center? But you see, they are safe havens where people can connect throughout amazing experiences, such as events, or even just by having a conversation. Today, online, books are just a click away. However, you miss so much by not physically opening a door with jingling bells that is welcoming you in a community, and maybe even having a conversation. And while you scan through the shelves in search of what you came for, you will probably find a book that you have never heard about, but that is the thing that you needed in that exact moment. It is really an enlightening and amazing experience. Bookstores, just like other independent businesses such as shops, cafes, or delis, are vital to our community because they are job generators and they create a vibrant commercial center. So what can we do as individuals to try and save them? First of all, we must try and buy as much as possible from these places. So next time you need to buy a present for a friend, why not buy it in your neighborhood shop? And then we must talk about it as much as possible, because you may ignite curiosity in people and they may follow your footsteps. Bookstores matter to authors, but most importantly of all, they should matter to us, that often don't know what a crisis these places are living. They offer us something that the internet will never be able to deliver: space, where 40, 50, or even 2 persons can come together and discuss an idea. I too, initially, would have preferred buying online or at a shopping center. But now that I know what a difference it makes for our local community shops owners and for the community itself, I always think twice before I buy. Thank you.
Have you ever felt excluded for an unfair reason? Beatrice is a powerful and strong young woman who decided to get on this stage today to raise her voice for a community that is often victim of social stigma. Let's welcome Beatrice.
Pride. What do you associate with this word? Well, I'm guessing most of you will think of those obnoxious coworkers who just cannot admit they're wrong. Or maybe the intellectuals among you will think of Dante's Divina Commedia, where the proud are damned to carry a heavy rock on their back, punished for their sin. However, here's what pride makes me think of: an ocean of extravagant colors, over-the-top clothes, crazy flags nobody even knows the meaning of, a multitude of people united not in spite of their differences, but precisely because of them. That's just crazy, right? What kind of powerful magic would be able to make this possible? Well, the answer might surprise you, but everyone in this crowd is marching to manifest their pride. And I felt that captivating energy myself. In fact, if you zoom in on this picture, you can actually see my face among all the others. And zooming even further, you will notice the flag I had painted on my cheek. The same flag I was forced to wash off as soon as I got home that day, out of fear of my parents' reaction. But fear did not stop me from raising my voice alongside these people who collectively rejected for centuries, found the strength to fight for their right to be themselves. That's really impressive, don't you think? They managed to be proud of their identity, no matter how much hate they were getting in return, therefore freeing themselves from the social stigma they were relegated on. They even managed to be proud of those same words that were being used to offend them. For example, they reclaimed the slur queer, which means weirdo, for themselves, making it empowering instead of humiliating. More than that, they coined new labels to define themselves instead of letting others choose for them. Today, they're known with their self-given name, LGBT community, which is short for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. However, their story begins with the history of mankind itself. Archaeologists have found representation of LGBT couples in 4,000 years old Egyptian tombs. And it is no mystery, at least for us, students at the Liceo Classico, that the Greeks and the Romans made no gender distinction when it came to love. Throughout history and across cultures, LGBT people have always existed, but they haven't always been accepted. For centuries, belonging to one of these four categories actually meant having to hide because you risked your life. To this very day, homosexuality alone is still illegal in 72 countries around the world. In 8 of them, you can be punished with death penalty for what is called unnatural offense. To which I'd argue, how can love be unnatural? Here's why it's very important to have a label to define yourself. Because how can you fight for a cause if it has no name? And if my words don't convince you, perhaps my own experience will. You see, people usually start exploring their identity during adolescence. And of course, I was no exception. But as I dig deeper and deeper within myself, a whole new world of possibilities opened up to me. I started to realize that as much as we would like it, people hardly ever fall into strict black and white categories. Having a word to describe my feelings meant I could share my experience with others, even if I didn't fit in the standard. Well, to be honest, being open about this kind of topic, or coming out of the closet, as we like saying, still requires a lot of courage. And I've tried it on my skin before. I've had friends who stopped talking to me, people who thought I was some kind of weird pervert, yet I'm one of the lucky ones. And the data tells a similar story. To this day, in Italy, up to this day, 662 people have been victims of homophobic and transphobic acts in the last 6 years. That means roughly a victim every 3 days. This is the consequence of discrimination, verbal harassment, or even physical aggression, the kind of consequences, well, let's say unpleasant consequences, that I'm subjecting myself to by being on this stage today. Unfortunately, many of these aggressions actually happen among family members. Way too many people, often teenagers like me, are forced out of the house because of unwelcoming parents. Hence the shocking rate of LGBT young people who experience homelessness. Well, studies have shown that while LGBT youth represents around 7% of the total population, they make up for more than 25% of the young homeless. Reasons are various. Some of them are straight up kicked out of the house, but many endure emotional and physical abuse from their very family members until they either manage to escape, ending up in the streets, or they don't, and become yet another name on a news report that won't even make it on the front page. These extreme cases aren't uncommon. However, everyday discrimination is often more subtle than that, though it can play a huge role on someone's well-being. Being denied a job or a mortgage, receiving a rude treatment from a public official, or even being kicked out of a restaurant while you're out on a date. All these things can add up, explaining why LGBT people are 2 times more likely to experience depression during their lifetime and 3 times more likely to attempt suicide. Imagine how it feels to be treated as monsters, as criminals, simply for falling in love. Imagine how it feels to be hated for your very existence. But maybe you don't need to use your imagination. It surely has happened to you to be the social outcast in a situation. So you can know the feeling of actual physical pain that comes from being excluded. What can you do about it? I at least hope you're wondering. Well, my answer to that would be fight ignorance. Ignorance is the root of prejudice. Get informed. Learn everything you can about this community that has been treated as monsters for so long, as predators, as criminals. Don't let bias stop you. Most of all, and I'm sure it will happen, if someone next to you decides to open up with you and come out of the closet, show them all of your support and be proud with them. Thank you.
Paolo is a sporty and very hardworking guy. His passion for sports has caused him not few problems at school. He has had a lot of disagreements with his teachers who believe schools comes before anything else. But thanks to an exchange program abroad, he discovered that these two worlds can and should coexist. Let's welcome Paolo.
Can a school system of a nation change the future of a student and his personal achievement? I spent my last semester of school in Ireland, outstanding country with such great people, warm and welcoming. As most people who goes abroad, I noticed not the similarities, but mostly the differences. One, for example, is on dinner time. Irish used to eat around 6 p.m., while as Italian eat at 8 p.m. usually. Their typical meal is mostly composed by spud and obviously Guinness beer, while staples food for us Italian is, as we know, pasta. We eat really a lot of pasta. However, the biggest difference I noticed was on the school system. I've always been a sporty type. Ski, basketball, tennis, and soccer are only some of the sports I practiced during my life. Unfortunately, I never did compete on a high level, and this happened for one main reason: Italian school system. Every time that I had to skip a school days due to practice or ski trainings, me and my parents were forced to listen to the continued complaints by the teacher. Their usual remarks were, "Is it not fair for the rest of the class to see Paolo come and go as he wishes instead of being fully committed to school?" Or, "We're gonna have a test and he will skip it again." So I decided to tweet. But is it fair for a student athlete to quit a sport only to focus on his school career? Not easy to find an answer. According to the survey of the Italian Pediatric Association, only 50% of Italian secondary school students practice a sport periodically. But when they turn 17, only 1 out of 3 is still doing something. In some cases, the reason can be obviously the lack of passion. But for more than 60% of them, the reason is the high level of school commitment that we're asked for. In Italy, there are around 8 million secondary school students, while the sports scholarships available are 1,500. That means that you have one chance out of 5,200 to become a sportsman and receive a sports scholarship. USA are a totally different story. There are 60 million secondary students schooled there, while the scholarship available are 150,000, or better, you have one chance out of 373 to become a student athlete. United States provide $2.9 billion annually thanks to NCAA Association in sports scholarship. Despite this, only 2% become pro and become real athletes, because for USA, the college education is the most rewarding benefit of the student-athlete experience and not the sport itself. The Latin also used to say it, mens sana in corpore sano, or better, a healthy mind in a healthy body. This was at the basis of the first school in history, where students used to practice in a facilities called gymnasium in the morning and to attend lessons in the afternoon. Sports and education were extremely connected, and I think we lost this ideal today. Self-discipline, respect, time management, and objective-driven are only some of the values that we learn through sport, and that are still very requested, for example, when we're looking for a job. But nothing is lost. Something has been done in Italy, finally. In 2015, the Ministry of Education started a project in cooperation with Serie A, CONI, and the Paralympic Committee called Buona Scuola. This involved the tutoring of 1,500 students in multiple sports. It comprehended 400 schools in 18 regions. But it's not enough. This is only a start. This should be only a start. What I would like to see is this project extended to every school, to every student, and to every athlete. But most important, the teacher acknowledge the importance of sport to the sake of student-athlete experience. Thank you.
There wasn't a specific law about violence against women and children, considering that they were the weakest subject and they should have been protected more than other victims. So, with the decriminalization of battery, the government decided to exempt domestic abuse. It exploits the civil society groups, but on the other side, the Orthodox Church was furious.
Today, I am here because this is not the world I believe in. The world my parents or my teachers taught me to believe in. The world my favorite YouTuber or the founder of the Women Russian Crisis Center started to create. Today, I am here to speak up for Yana, for Veronica, for Svetlana, for Irina, for Margarita, and for all the other women who can't. Thank you.
You guys are amazing. This is such a great audience.
Welcome back on our stage.
Thank you.
It's so good to have us with us again. Okay, well, you've never really left us, actually.
No, I'm always here.
I know. I would like for you to share with our audience what your TEDEd experience has been like.
When I first joined Torino TedEd Club 3 years ago, I was one of the pioneers, and I was very shy. And at the beginning, I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I was very excited because I had never had the opportunity to speak in public about something I really cared about. The other speakers and I worked really hard to complete our scripts, and I admit it, it was not easy, but it was worth it. And the event and the audience were both amazing, and it was such a great experience.
Like tonight.
Yeah, yeah, like this.
Like this audience.
Yeah.
Now, Let's give Thank you. So, how did TedEd in New York break the news to you?
Oh, it was totally unexpected. One day in June, I received an email announcing I was invited to speak at TEDED Weekend in New York. More hard work, this time not only with Gabriella, but with Dan and Dashi, two awesome TED coaches.
Who are hopefully watching us right now. Yes.
I hope so. The event was prepared by set video calls, and during each video call, there were 12 other speakers from all around the world. The work was a teamwork because I received excellent suggestions and gave the other guys my feedback.
And how was New York? Tell them about when we got there.
Yeah, the city was amazing, but it was snowing as soon as we arrived, so it was very difficult to get to the hotel.
It was the first snowstorm in New York.
Yeah, it was such a great adventure. And the following day, I met all the speakers, and we rehearsed together.
From all over the world.
Yeah, it was great. And on Friday night, I was extremely nervous, anxious, and excited, but I knew I was ready to go on stage.
Yes, you were. And how was the TED stage, TEDED in New York?
Honestly, I was terrified, but I took a deep breath and I started talking. And at the end, I noticed that the audience was very touched by what I said. So I was proud of myself. It was like an amazing experience.
We were all very proud of you.
Thank you.
And last question, how has all of this changed your life? Have you changed?
No, I'm still shy. My personality hasn't changed, but now I've learned how to spread my ideas successfully. I'm proud of myself, and I'm extremely grateful to every person I met in my TED experience, especially Gabriella, because they gave me the opportunity to realize my dream.
Thank you, Sophia, for your hard work.
To build too many walls and not enough bridges. Nowadays, this has become a matter of fact, especially when it comes to immigration. Nico, our next speaker, is going to show us why we should open our minds instead of drawing red lines. Let's please welcome Nico.
Before I joined a debate club, I pictured debate as a conversation between two politicians, and the communication style at times can be hostile. In fact, on some TV show, we may see screaming going on when they are debating. But this changed last year, when I started doing a research to support a thesis for my first debate, and I was forced to examine both, the pro and the con side. I actually discovered debate considers different solutions of a problem based on different points of view. Why is it so important for this problem-solving approach to be applied not only in a conversation, but also in the real-life issues? Well, through debate, we are forced to put ourselves in other shoes, regardless of our opinion. This makes us more cautious about the world we live in and issues faced by each region. This makes us lower our barriers. Which brings me to my topic, boundaries. A perfect example of a topic to debate on. The word border is centrally a key and recurrent of the contemporary debate, and in general, in minds of each of us. Border, boundary, frontier, limit are the words used sometimes synonymously to describe the end of something, the limit of science, territory, or patience. Borders have been around for a really long time. The Romans were the first to build a border in Rome. Its purpose was to divide Italic cities from Etruscan territory as a result of Roman-Etruscan wars. Then there was the Hadrian's Wall in northern England. It was built to prevent free movement of riders while also furthering the collection of taxes from traders. Then there was the Great Chinese Wall, 1,500 years period to prevent Mongol raids. If you look carefully, you will notice that all three of them have something in common: to prevent raids. But today, the purpose of borders has completely changed. They are built to stop the free movement of civilians. Since 2015, countries as diverse as Austria, Saudi Arabia, and Hungary announced or began to work on the new border barriers. Norway has built a fence on its Russian border. Pakistan is building a wall on its border with Afghanistan, and United Kingdom has built a wall in Calais, France. What does it mean? What's the purpose for this? Borders demonstrate that politicians are doing something to address the perceived threats brought about by migrants, maybe economic. Economic in the form of workers taking jobs and revenue from the citizens, and cultural in the sense that migrants bring different traditions, customs, and languages that may not match with the local culture. But in the reality, the encounter between different cultures may lead to enrichment for both. In fact, migrants are an important workforce and they support the economy by paying taxes and contributions. Furthermore, migrants' traditions, customs, and languages may be an important lesson for us, others, as diversity is the synonym of richness. Recently, Theresa May said that people who consider themselves citizens of the world are the citizens of nowhere. Leonardo da Vinci, Gandhi, and Einstein were the citizens of the world. So where does this put them? I'm a migrant too. I was born in Poland, and I moved to Italy in 2013 when I was 13. I fit in like a glove in both places, Italy and Poland. So which country I am the citizen of? Italy or Poland? I actually often wonder what my life would have been like if I had stayed in Poland, if I had not had the option to move to a country that offers me more opportunities. There is one thing I am sure of. I will not have had the opportunity I've had to improve my education, to learn a new language, and to live new experiences. Unlike me, right now, there are billions of people stuck in countries where it's hard to get anything done, who have done nothing more than be born in a country that offers them less opportunities. There are lots of people also who are unable to leave their countries because the government not allow them to do so, or other countries will not welcome them. I was lucky because I did not find the world before me, and I was able to embrace a new life. Borders apparently are symbols of safety, but in reality, they weight us down. Theresa May, who said the citizens of the world are the citizens of nowhere, did not understand in which world we live in, because believing that we cannot be citizens of the world will lose us to the world. The openness is the only thing that makes us safe, because it allows us to run to a safety. And for sure, borders will not fix our global problems. People will continue to search better life conditions at the cost of endangering their lives. And this is the real cost of borders. Thank you.
Ludovica believes something. She believes that every person should have a freedom to express his own opinion. But why is she so convinced about liberty of expression? Now we are going to find out. So please, let's give her a nice applause, Ludovica.
Not so long ago, I had to write an essay for school, and the topic was the personality of Achilles, one of the most famous heroes of the Iliad. In particular, our Italian teacher asked us to express our personal opinion about this character, one of the most valuable warriors of the Greek army. I wrote that I thought that he was a really proud man, and that I personally admired his sense of dignity and honor. When the teacher gave me back the task, I discovered it had been a total failure. And to my request for explanations, I was told that my insufficiency was due not to vocabulary or grammatical errors, but rather of my personal opinion. My teacher simply didn't agree with what I had written, and she told me that in a school essay, I should have written her opinion, previously expressed in class, not mine. It was right there and then I understood that our freedom of expression is really limited or non-existent, and so I decided to look further into this topic. I started out by searching a clear definition of human rights. There are 30 human rights in the Human Declaration of Human Rights. Number 19 is what I'm here to talk to you about: freedom of expression. We all have the right to make up our own minds, to choose what we like and what we don't like, to say what we think, and to share our ideas with other people. Article 19 is what protects this right. However, it isn't a modern invention. The Greek were the first to apply it. Inhabitants of Greek polis, cities, had the right to express their opinion in public assemblies. They believed that without freedom of expression, there was no democracy. Obviously, there were limits within which citizens had to say, otherwise they would have been exiled. But in all this, were children contemplated? Were children given the same rights as adults then? The answer is no. The French were the first to give children special protection in the middle of the 19th century. In Italy for work and education, and later on the social, medical, and judicial fields. This, in time, spread to the rest of Europe. Then, with the creation of the future United Nations, the Declaration of the Rights of the Child, an historic document that recognized and affirmed the existence of specific rights for children and the responsibility of adults towards children, came about. Today, there is not a set age for when a child becomes adult. Every state in the world has its own parameter, according to which, at a certain age, a young person becomes officially adult. For example, in Cuba, a child becomes adult at 16, in France at 18, in Canada at 19, and in Egypt at 21. Sometimes, young people's rights, our rights, are different from those we enjoy. Just like my teacher did, parents, principals, and other adults in our lives often set limits on our freedom of speech. The main question is, can young people make the difference? Yes, we can. As a matter of fact, we already do. It's happening right here in Turin, right now. Irene Ferrari is a 17-year-old high-school student. Since she was a child, she has always been concerned about climate change issues. She even did a TED talk on this. Today, Irene is the referent of the Environmental Committee at her school. She organizes and promotes meetings. Her main objective is to spread her great message to as many people as possible. Carlotta Reviglio became interested in environmental issues in high school. Today, she is promoter of Fridays for Future at her old high school. From that moment, something lit up inside her. She and others take the street and protest. Some of us do things that might be greater compared to others, but no matter how small our action may be, we still make a difference in our communities. See, we want the freedom and opportunities to speak out, to have a say in things, to express our opinions and thoughts freely. Freedom allows us to stand up for what we believe in and for what is right. Try to imagine yourself in my situation, without the freedom to voice out what you believe in. Would you just nod and agree on something when you actually do not? Hard to say. Freedom of expression is really important to young people like me. We want to speak for ourselves, to be respected as individuals, to contribute in our families even, in our society. To be able to state our opinions publicly is our right. Is this too much to ask for? Don't take this right away from us. Thank you.
It is with small and simple actions that we can change our impact on the environment. Amedeo has always been interested in sustainable issues, and his talk links perfectly to two of his biggest passions, fashion and environmental impact. Welcome, Amedeo.
Being the youngest child can sometimes be challenging. I have an older brother, Vittorio, and I guess, like all other younger brothers do, I often feel in for him. Like that time, I was forced by my parents to take his place at a fashion show during Fashion Week because he was sick. I had been forced to stop, but a fashion show. I was overwhelmed by this news, but there was no way of getting out of it. So I went to the Rata-Porter in Milan. This was the name of the event. While on my way to Milan, I kept thinking, with a name like Rata-Porter, I wonder what the location will be like. Maybe they will have it at the dumpster. After 1 hour and a half, we finally arrived, and much to my surprise, the location of the venue was a historical building dating back to the 18th centuries. Doesn't look like to me a dumpster, I thought. No rats around. It was actually really nice. Looked like a theater with red velvet curtain, but the only thing I could not figure out was why the runway was made of cardboard. Suddenly, a fast music started playing, and the show began. Well-known brands, as well as other Italian emerging designers, started doing their catwalk. The models wore clothes made of one or maximum two basic colors. But I still kept looking for the connection between rats and fashion shows, but I could not find an answer to this. Until one of the designers announced that his garments had been produced with rubbish. It was all clear to me now. The rat represents an animal which feeds on rubbish. Instead, the verb apporter means easy to wear in French. All garments had been produced with recycled materials. I was actually glad I had gone, and I decided to look further into this topic. Just like modern art, music, and dance, fashion had been very important for the evolution of man. Humans, actually, began wearing clothes to protect themselves about 170,000 years ago. Fashion is something innate. We tend to be fashionable. We feel well when we look well. We feel badly when we look poorly. It is a way of expressing our intention and emotion. But you know, we are not only the fashion-conscious ones. Did you know animals tend to decorate themselves or change their colors to attract other animals? For example, the male peacock uses its feathers to attract females. Crabs, instead, blend in by attaching seaweed and sponges to their shells. Fabrics have really evolved in time. Up to 1800s, with the advent of artificial fibers, natural fabrics were all we had in fashion. If you had lived 7,000 years ago in Egypt, your clothes would have been made of linen. If you happen to live in China 5,000 years ago, you could be wearing the first garments made of silk. But what about now? Have you ever thought which fabrics was used to produce your favorite clothes? Natural or synthetic? Natural fabrics such as linen, cotton, silk, and wool are made of animals or plant-based products. Instead, synthetics are man-made, such as acrylic, rayon, and polyester. Polyester is the single most style used. But why this happen? Polyester is cheaper, long-lasting, and more durable compared to natural fabrics. But when polyester fibers are washed in washing machine, they shed minute negligible microfibers that can easily pass through our ocean and affect the marine life. It takes about more than 30 years to start to decompose in a landfill. Polyester fibers start polluting when they are extracted from fossil fuels, destroying natural habitats during the process. But you know, they are not the only bad guys. Cotton is a natural plant-based product. However, cotton undergoes multiple chemical procedures which involve additives that are often toxic for the human body. It's hard to resist to the temptation to buy products on sale, low cost, low quality, for high fashion, collection inspired by catwalk, instead of turning back to environmental friendly items. But now you know the impact of your option can have on the environment, and there are some simple rules that you can follow to reduce the environmental impact of your clothes. Buy less, buy better quality clothes and sustainable brands. Swap and recycle your clothes. And remember, next time you go shopping and you have a choice between a natural or a synthetic product, stop for a moment and think about the pros and the cons. Better yet, you might decide to choose a garment or shoe made of recycled materials. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Agnese. Agnes in English, or Ines in Spanish. Knowing different languages is not just a speaking ability. It allows us to have more than one personality, even more than one soul. Bilingual Lucia will explain how she easily switches from a language to another. Enjoy!
Do you know how each family has their own kind of language? Like when a member of the family says a specific word and everybody knows what he or she is talking about? Well, in my family, it works just like that. With a little different that each thing has not one, but two names, including myself. You can call me Lucia or Lucia, and I will either way turn my head. Let me explain myself better. My father, who is Spanish, emigrated here looking for a job and met my Italian mother. Long story short, after a few years, I was born. So I had the luck of being born and raised bilingual, speaking two different languages at home, which gave me not only a double mother tongue, but also a double mentality and two cultures I can identify with. In what language do you think? This is the most frequently asked question that I get as a bilingual. My answer to this question is always, instinctively, both. How can anyone think in two languages, you may ask? The first thing to consider is that often thinking can be independent of language. See, many cognitive scientists suggest that thinking first occurs in mentalies. This is a hypothetical, non-verbal language in which concepts are represented in the mind. It occurs before the representation we are thinking about are turned into English, Spanish, or Italian, for example. Let's think about it this way. Have you ever experienced that frustrating moment when you're thinking about an object but can't find its name whatsoever, even though you're absolutely sure what you're thinking about? See, that is mentalese. So when a bilingual is walking down the street, riding a bike, or exercising, her or his thoughts don't have to necessarily be in one of the two languages. It can just be mentalese. Following this first train of thought, there come the thoughts that actually require language. We have to keep in mind that bilingual people use their languages in different settings of life, for different purposes, and with different people. So my answer, I think in both languages, should not be that surprising. If I am at school, for example, and I'm thinking about a question I want to ask the teacher, I think in Italian, because I'm planning to speak in that language. If, on the other hand, I'm with my Spanish cousin, and this is her, by the way, and I'm thinking about the latest piece of gossip I want to tell her, I think in Spanish. Thinking in more than one language is not something anyone has to take for granted. It requires a very deep knowledge of the language that even bilingual people have to learn. I got lucky because my father has always done everything he could to make my brother and I develop our Spanish minds as well as our Italian ones. His favorite activity to do was to prepare a little game for us. So, for example, when we were little, we used to play this game. He will write on a post-it the first letter of a word, and then he will ask us to attach it to the thing whose Spanish name started with that letter. So, for example, if I had the letter M, I will have attached it to Mama, to my mother, who is sitting right there. That forced our minds to think in Spanish, because if we had thought about the name of something in Italian, we would have attached the post-it on the wrong thing. This way, we mastered our Spanish thinking while also having a lot of fun. However, there was also a second reason for making us play this game. He wanted to make us develop our Spanish self. Yes, that is a thing. Bilingual people have different personalities or behave differently depending on which language they are speaking. Let me make an example. Love. Love. Okay. In Italian, we have two ways of saying I love you. One is ti voglio bene, and it is more family and friends type of I love you. It is sweeter and it's like saying I care deeply about you. And one is ti amo, the romantic I love you, the one for boyfriends and girlfriends. In Spanish, we only have one sentence, te quiero. It can have both of the Italian meanings, depending on who you're saying it to, but doesn't distinguish them into different sentences. This can have repercussions on any bilingual person, even on myself. I found that when I'm speaking Spanish, for example, with my family, and these are them, I feel more attached to people that I love. And it doesn't matter if I care about them in a romantic way or not. They're special to me, and I feel love for them. On the other hand, when I speak in Italian, I feel the need to separate those loves so that my friends and family are not on the same level as my boyfriend. This leads me to be more affectionate and loving when I'm speaking Spanish than when I'm speaking Italian. This is just an example, but that could be applied to any situation. This is why it is so important to be able to speak and think in another language. Changing your linguistic register causes you to change personalities, discovering parts of yourself you will have never have thought you will have. Having a second language makes you more aware of yourself and lets you have a deeper connection with your own feelings and thoughts. As Charlemagne said, to have a second language is to have a second soul. The good news is, you can be bilingual too. See, there are different types of bilingualism. I fall in the category of early simultaneous bilingualism, meaning that I learned both of my language before the age of 6 at the same time. But you can be a late bilingual, so that you learn your second language after the age of 6. Or maybe an additive bilingual, so that your second language is like an asset to your first one. So I strongly, strongly recommend you to learn a second language. Not only because it will open your minds to different cultures, but because it will make you know yourself better. Discover personalities you will never have thought you will have. Trust me, you will be surprised. Thank you.
Francesco is the last speaker, and he is a born debater. And tonight, he has a question for us. Do protests actually work? Taking the streets to demonstrate can seem like a great thing to do, but is it the right one? In his talk, he will show us whether demonstrating actually matters. Let's welcome Francesco.
During a class discussion on current affairs, we somehow ended up talking about how a woman had left prison after serving her sentence for the murder of her mother, and how her father had publicly stated that he had forgiven her. Our history teacher pointed out that she would never forgive someone if they killed her mother. As a matter of fact, she would put them to death. When I and a classmate of mine argued that death penalty is deeply unfair, she replied to us, or better, she shouted at us, "I hope you never become lawyers or judges. Otherwise, I don't know how we would end up." What did she obtain? She actually gave me an idea. I am now considering law school, and I am a convinced debater on what seems unfair, which can lead to political protest. But where does this word originate from? The word politics comes from the ancient Greek politika, meaning state affairs. This concept goes beyond parties and politicians. It refers to the involvement of citizens in issues and decisions regarding their own communities and nations through a democratic system on all topics, from marriage equality to economic policies, and so on. Now, do we, young people, know enough about politics to make our own decisions? The answer seems to be no. We are sad to be uninformed and misengaged. Let me give you an example. About once a month, I find party representatives distributing propaganda right outside my school. Some may say it's wrong, but it's legal. In fact, right or wrong, the point is that that propaganda only comes from extremist parties, no in between. They seem to be the only political elements interested in reaching out to new generations. But despite this lack of interest, lots of teenagers and young adults I see around myself are taking part in the political debate in a way which is not based on insulting each other on social media, because they care fiercely about justice, equality, and other issues. From all social and economic statuses, they take part to dialogue, problem solve in their local communities, and walk together in peaceful protests. This is the first protest I ever went to. It was this year, on February 2nd. On that day, a few minutes after the protest began, it started snowing. I had my scout uniform on, and I was freezing. But just like all the others, I stayed and kept supporting that cause. Then, obviously, there is Fridays for Future, with its huge event on March 15th. As you all probably know, a huge demonstration was held all over the world to demand action against climate change. On that day, several thousand students and all other kinds of people flooded the city center here in Turin, like a green wave screaming, "We want change, now." Now, what was I driven by? What made me want to join that protest and everyone else? On that day, after the demonstration, during our usual Friday TedEd club meeting, a friend of mine, Georgia, came up with an interesting question. Do demonstrations actually influence politics? Firstly, we need to fully understand what she meant by that. Now, picture this situation. You are a politician. You were elected by a solid and tight electorate which knows what issues you are interested in changing. All of a sudden, some relentless activists raise a movement so large it mobilitates 200,000 people just in your nation for an issue that you do not believe in. Now, if your voters who brought you to power do not support it either, do you bother to find out about it? You probably don't. But does this mean that protesting is useless? It doesn't. Obviously, it's difficult to decide whether a demonstration is successful. Some may see it as the immediate obtainment of change. Others might argue that many people showing their opinion together must lead to politicians changing or moderating their opinion on that specific topic. Demonstrations get people involved in the political debate so that they turn into practice what they learned during the demonstration. Then, protesters can go back to their own environments and spread the ideas to which they have been exposed. Research by Harvard University shows the importance of social dynamics in the development of movements for political change. This means that the interactions that take place during demonstrations help to strengthen the movement that has been protested for. Demonstrations, if well organized, are amazing moments. Standing there in the middle of your beloved city's main square, chanting and screaming for what you believe in. You are doing what you know to be right, fighting for an issue that you believe that your society needs to face. By doing so, you can feel that you are not alone in your battle. In that moment, your fight is everyone's fight. And you feel invincible because you know that by sticking together, you have a chance at making change happen. This is what I was driven by, the feeling that we are all in it together. So now go. After you vote, after a demonstration, demonstrate, chant, scream. Take the ideas that have been shared with you tonight and make them part of your own life. Find your own fights and turn them into movements. Make the people and the world around you understand that you are right, and you will not stop until you make your dream a reality. Thank you.
Well, our event has come to an end. I think it was amazing. I think everybody did a really good job. You guys were amazing. You're still here. Thank you so much. You are just glued to your chairs. Let's give you a big hand. Woo! Okay, so as I mentioned at the very beginning, this is a very special night because these people here are all ex-speakers. They were speakers at our previous edition. And of course, these editions, and these are, tonight's speakers. I also want to introduce you to two very important people, the people who helped set up tonight's event and who give me a hand throughout the year with the incredible videos that you guys have seen, I'm sure, and the graphics. I would like to welcome Tanya and Ricardo. Okay, Tanya is in charge of all our communication, of the graphics, the programs that you guys have seen. She coordinates the videos and just all of the communication part. Tanya, why don't you share, some of your thoughts with our audience?
This year, our club members were very active.
They helped me out with our videos and social media. They were always on top of things. They are open, brave, and not afraid of challenge. And they really inspired me. So I hope through their presentation have inspired you too. Thank you.
And this is Riccardo Antonino. He is the person who set up tonight's event. I'm sure you guys are just appalled by the beauty of this place. Let's give a big hand to the Egyptian Museum. Thank you so much for having us here. This is wonderful. Ricardo, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? He used to be the youngest professor at the College of Engineering, but we've been doing this for 4 years now, so Ricardo.
Okay, what can I say? I'm just so proud of all these guys. I'm also proud of this place. So I'm in a place like this, with people like this, with people like Gabriela, we can, I can tell these guys can have the opportunities. Some opportunities people my age or even older didn't have. They had the opportunity to make their voices stand. And so, well, this is one of the, not so many times, I can define myself proud of the people I worked with and the city I live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I know you guys would like to stay, so would we. There's one more thing I would like to say. There is one speaker, he was supposed to do the presentation at the beginning, but he just could not handle both. And I really, really would like to give him a big hand and thank him for everything he did. He would stay at our place in Via Papacino until late at night, just keeping me company and making sure that I was okay, because in the meantime, I got really sick. And so, just, you know, everybody just kind of gave me a really, really big hand. I would like to thank Giulio Rigazio. Woo! He created the video for Sofia Guidi, our Italian, the Italian girl who went to New York, or the first TEDed Italian speaker to be on New York stage. So we are very, very proud. Everybody played a very important role in this event. Everybody was indispensable. You guys are indispensable. Thank you for coming, and see you soon. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
I think we should give a big round of applause for Gabriela that made all of this possible. Good job.
Thank you, guys. It's been an amazing experience. I can see that you guys enjoyed it, and we did too. So we will try to do it another time, okay? We will do it again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.